Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, welcome to Be My Guest. This is Jan Lewis, and today we have back with us William Reiley Butler, and he is an author. He had written another book that he'd had on with us, and he is an Amazon bestseller, #1 bestseller, Navigate the Medical Maze. And he'll tell you his story, too, what he went through. It's not easy, believe me. And before we get started, I want to let everybody know that we have some wide variety of guests coming up. A breast cancer survivor who is now the head of a massage facility, a guitarist and singer, P.E., will be back with us, 2 paranormal investigators, Tom D'Agostino is one of them, a comedian, Jerry Caruso, he's been on, Kate Cote, our cat lady, she usually brings a cat to show everybody, Bay State Trail Riders, that ought to be good, and the president of the Corridor 495 Regional Chamber of Commerce. So, we have a variety coming up. And of course, we always have lots of authors. So, welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
Where did you drive in from?
Westboro.
Okay, well, that's not too far. Did you go by the reservoir?
Yes.
That is so beautiful.
Carol and I went trekking through there.
That little trail on the right?
Yep.
You like that one.
I learned how to walk again.
Yeah. Navigate the medical maze. Indispensable resources and a roadmap to explore the critical importance of second opinions from hospitals, surgeons, rehabilitation facilities, and caregivers. These are real stories from doctors, nurses, patients, and caregivers. This came out in August, right, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. How long did it take you to write it?
It had probably 14, maybe 15 months.
That's good.
Research was very intensive.
Where did you go? With hospitals and all?
I went to 4 or 5 rehabs, acute and subacute, in order to find them. I've been very familiar with at least 10 hospitals.
Tell us your story. People who weren't here before, tell us what happened to you.
Well, one of the issues and reasons I wrote the book is because of the experiences that I experienced and I had. But while those experiences were going on, I met other patients, and I met so many doctors. It was like General Hospital. At which point, my feeling was the medical professionals need to know what the patient's perspective is, and vice versa. So that came into my mind. I ran it by a few surgeons and the idea of doing that, and they thought it was fantastic. So that was a motivator. The people that I've met, basically, if you have friends of friends, family, or yourself, if you're going to go into potentially a surgery, or you have an issue, or maybe you just want to prepare for something in the future, then you're going to need to detail some options, because now you have the time. And my book is about options. Why you want options, where to get the options, and how to get the options. And I've researched the book. It's there's nothing like it, really, that's been written. It's been endorsed by Joyce Haywick.
Yep, we know that.
And she's a 3-time cancer survivor.
She is.
And so it's been extremely well received. The point, I guess, is that in my scenario, I had 11 operations, went to 12 rehabilitation facilities.
What happened, Bill? Tell us what happened. Why did you have to go through that?
The first hospital I went to in 2011 gave me an infection in the spine. So due to that, I had 3 more operations, 2 induced comas, 3 blood transfusions, and I came back alive.
Yeah.
One of the few.
Lucky.
Then in 2015 and 2017, my right and left hip became deteriorated. When that happened, I went to the first one. I asked the primary where I should go. This time I asked a friend where I should go. So he sent me down South Shore, Norman. At which point, I got 2 infections, one in the right hip, one in the left hip. So it's called a double hip and you have to have a double revision, which is extremely deadly. So from that experience of 5 hospitals, 12 rehabilitation, and I felt that people should know how they can make a choice, why you should have options. The reason is because don't do what I did. And what I did is I didn't look for options. I was even told by a doctor at the YMCA in Westboro very quickly that he said, "Why are you bent over like that? I've seen you for years." And I said, "Well, disc is hitting the sciatic nerve." And he said, "Where are you going?" So I mentioned the hospital. And he said, "Oh." He said, "Well, don't go there."
Yeah.
And I looked at him and said, "Why?" And he said, "Just don't go there." And I said, "Well, are you a doctor?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Where do you practice?" He goes, "That hospital. You'll never come out the same. Go to New England Baptist, get a second opinion, somewhere in there."
That's where my mother went.
They backed out of during the double revision.
Yeah.
It was just so difficult. But the issue was I didn't listen to him, and he was a doctor. I didn't get a second opinion, and I didn't. I went by a friend's option, and I don't blame the primary, and I don't blame my friend Don Hansen. He was trying to really help me. I blame myself, and I don't want the readers to be in the same situation. And the people in the book are talk about and give their heart of their experience of some didn't settle for one doctor's opinion and they went through it. Others didn't do exactly what I did, and then they didn't get it. They learned pain, disablement. I'm crippled now. And I just learned how to walk about 2 years ago, and death. And I've seen a number of people pass away when I was out there.
Did you mention Norwood Hospital? They're out. They're aren't they out?
They're gone.
Yeah, my mother and father were up there, and I've always wished they had gone to UMass in Worcester. Always. I couldn't get them to budge.
They're rebuilding it, I understand.
Are they? Yeah, I hope they do a better job this time. Nice hospital, but...
Well, when there's an issue when you're going through something like this, and in cancer, or in my situation with infections, they do the aspirations and you wait.
Yeah.
A friend of mine at the Y, actually, he had cancer, and they call it brain stop.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that position like he and I were, because everything stops. You're not sure if you're going to live or die. Because if the infection still stayed, I die of sepsis. Same cancer. So they call it brain stop. Then you get the information, and it's gone, and then you can start your life again.
Oh, God. How long did you go through this recovery period?
Boy, probably 3 years.
3 years is a long time.
3 years of it, I mean, it was. I could.
Yeah, that's long.
Get me on my website, William-Butler.com.
How can they reach you?
William-Butler.com, and I'll tell you exactly any information that you possibly need.
Right. Now we're talking with Bill Butler. In the book, he's listed as William Reiley Butler, which is great. The Navigate the Medical Maze, and boy, is this important. Where can they get it on Amazon? Well, obviously, it's #1 Amazon bestseller. Where else can they get this around here?
They can email me from my website, William-Butler.com, and I'll make arrangements to send one to them.
Awesome.
Of course, there'll be a cost to it.
Where will you be appearing coming up?
Going to WCC TV in Worcester.
I've been there, found at a show. Yeah.
That's going to be next week.
Yeah.
And I have a book signing at Taken Up?
Tatnut.
Tatnut.
Excellent.
November 21st.
Very good.
So please come and I'll sign the books.
They're a good show. Now, in the book, Chapter 1 was Hope, Fight, Live. What made you decide to title it that?
No, that's what it is. In any situation where you have an issue, that issue could be anything, or life or death, if you lose your hope, then you've lost the battle. And whether that hope comes from the surgeons or comes from an advocate or comes from family, it doesn't matter. You got to keep hoping and see a light at the end of the tunnel. But you got to fight. I mean, if I didn't fight in 2011, 4 operations to keep me alive, I would have passed. So once you fight, and then you have a better chance of living. It's internal.
Yeah.
You've got to want to do it. That's why I put in advocates. I started off with advocates.
Yeah.
When you have a family, like I said, you have to have somebody that might be there to look at it from an opposite point of view. Actually be a stenographer when you're consulting with, say you look at 3 surgeons. The advocate is there writing while you're asking and talking questions. So now you have 1, 2, 3 options. The same thing with rehab facility, 1, 2, 3 options. But the advocate is always there, or another advocate, writing it down, so then you can make an intelligent decision. Then you get into the rest of the book. I'll give you an example of advocates. There's Dr. Edward Hoffer, who wrote a book, and I befriended him because of a person I know, Carol Isbeck. And he is a top cardiologist in the world, actually. Did the heart studies in Framingham years ago, ran for 10 years. And he could make him cum laude from Harvard Medical School. But in his comments in the book, what he told me to do is you need the advocate, no matter what you do. You end up in a hospital, try to have a friend or family member by your side as much of the day as possible. If permitted, let them get you up and frequently walk during the day.
Yeah, definitely.
It's hope and motivation. There's also a health specialist in each hospital.
There are patient advocates too.
Pardon?
I've used patient advocates over at UMass. They're terrific. I mean, I was so afraid back in '93 about a major operation I was going to have, petrified. So I called patient advocates and I said, look, could you take me like a kid and walk me through what I'm going to see, what I'm going to, Yes, they sent a gal about my same age. She took me down to where the pre-op is, to the op, showed me around, and true to their voice, when I went in, she came to see me beforehand. When I woke up, one of them was, a gentleman was standing right there. Hi, welcome back. Talk about, and then they chased my husband down to the cafeteria because it was going on long to tell him everything was okay. That's doggone good, so don't hesitate to, they call them patient reps, patient representatives, advocates.
Especially in the hospitals.
Yeah.
In the book, it's surgeons, CNAs, RNs, physical therapy, occupational therapy, regular doctors, and patients.
Yeah.
We find out the role of each one and then the patient's perspective.
And PAs too, physician's assistants.
PAs are in there also.
Yeah.
Thank you. So a patient knows the roles of each individual while they're doing anything, actually.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons I wrote the book is because of one of the infections given to me by a hospital. How to prevent that. That's the last section of the book. But it's get opinions. And by getting the opinions, then you can feel comfortable about your decisions, especially when you go in and talk with them. So we get into the second section. Why do you want an opinion, second opinion? So you have people telling you what their experiences were, and then you see it from the nurse's side and the doctor's side. Why do you want opinion? Because once you read the book and see what they experienced, similar to what I experienced, then you'll really understand why, where, and how. Now, the where and how are, how do I find out to get a second opinion? Mm-hmm. My recommendation is you get 2, minimum 3, if possible, if you have the time.
Yep.
And that is for surgeons, that's for hospitals, that is for the rehab facilities, and more important for everybody is nursing homes, and then home care. Mm-hmm. I get into the point of how do you find this information? And it took me a lot of time to get to research. Mm-hmm. You get a number of websites that will help you out. But really you get that information from 3 areas. One is the friends and family and primary. Well, you know what happened to me in the primary.
Yeah.
You get it from the internet.
Yeah.
And you can get it from the Joint Commission on Health and also Medicare.gov/compare, mm-hmm. which is the best. So between all those 4, you should be able to get 3 doctors, 3 rehabs, 3 hospitals, hopefully different HMOs. The point is that when you've done that, then now you have something to run with for comparison. Joint Commission of Health is a great area to go and see what the quality of the surgeons are, for example. They all work with accreditation. So if a hospital is not accredited, excuse me, don't go there. So that's Joint Commission. But Medicare.gov has a wealth of information.
Yeah.
So what I end up doing is tell the reader, inform the reader why they want to go to look for these people and where to go. So let's say they're local. In mine, I put two charts, one for hospitals and one for rehab. So I compare two different hospitals and I compare two different rehab facilities. And it's just amazing what the difference, the delta is between the one I went to and got the infections and Newton Wellesley, which saved my life by getting rid of the infections with two surgeons and one infectious disease doctor. You see the difference in different categories. It's a wealth of knowledge, and you say, well, I'm not going there. I'm going here, right? It's the same thing with nursing homes / rehab facilities, so I have a chart in there about that. I compare one in Westboro, which, excuse my language, was a hellhole. Saw a number of people pass there, and heard of a number of people passing there. And also then, I don't know if I should name the rehab, but it's in Millbury, Massachusetts. And I decided to go there for my last 4 operations. They were great. It's important to not only know the questions you have to ask these people, but you also want to know what you're looking for visually.
Yep.
So I recommend that you pick those 3, then you go on site after you've gotten an appointment. You call the director. When you're on site, the book tells you what to look for, what's good, what's bad. You'll see it immediately and not make the same mistake I made with my first rehab.
Also check reviews from other patients. I found that helpful.
That's very helpful.
Oh, yeah.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
But most people don't know how to do this.
I know.
The book informs you step by step on how to compare hospitals and rehab facilities. Now, the side benefit of this is the nursing homes.
Oh,
because somewhere in some part of your life, you get touched by a nursing home.
Yeah.
Don't make the mistake that I've seen people make. Care One was great. The one in Westboro, don't even talk about it.
Yeah, you talked about Care One in Millbury?
Yeah.
Actually, I have the I think she's the former director right here. She was interviewed. I think there's a new director now. I'm not sure. Took me on a tour. Really, really
There's
nice.
a woman named Robbie. She held beds for me.
Nice place. Very good.
I also instruct people or tell people how to work with the rehab facilities to get a bed. Now, this comes the advocate. You have an advocate in the hospital. They give you a sheet. The sheet's for Medicare. Medicare has stars and a rating. That doesn't mean much. It gives you an idea of where you possibly could go. But I picked a 3-star one, and that was, I won't go into the details about the blood and all sorts, but it was really bad. It was in Shrewsbury. Fortunately, I went and fixed in Newton Wellesley, and then they sent me to Care One. And then I never looked back.
All right.
It's really what you're looking, how you want to make sure that you're asking the right questions, even to the rehab, and keep the director happy, so that you get the bed. What they're going to do is say, you call a rehab, they give you the list, and they say, well, if we have a bed available.
Yeah, we'll let you know. Don't call us, we'll call you.
The point is that you butter up to the director.
And be a squeaky wheel. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Call them up.
Don't be afraid to call.
Email.
So what we're looking at is advocates, second opinions, roles of the professionals, what they are, so you don't tick them off, right? And you know what a CNA is.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't know what a CNA is. And then the patient's perspective. These are all good stories and bad stories.
Interesting.
Bad experiences.
Amazing. Bill has written stories from the doctors, patients. It's pretty amazing. I know one thing too, Bill, that I found when my husband was going to have chemotherapy. Every appointment, I kept like a notebook of everything, the day, who we saw, paper trail.
See, you're like the Kim in the book. There's a woman in the book named Kim O'Brien. She was misdiagnosed 3 times. She's out of Skinny House, New York. And because she came in and said, they always ask what level of pain you are.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Many people don't know how to do that. Now, a lot of people come in, I've talked to surgeons, PAs, and they told me, well, I'm in level 10. Well, let me tell you, If you're at level 10, you're either in a induced coma, you're in so much pain, you want to go away somewhere. I actually hit level 8 and 9 because I had an infection in this hip, but the first prosthesis stem broke. And when it broke, it was rubbing against the infection inside the leg.
What was it made of?
Titanium.
But how could I've got it in my ankle? Three of them.
I have no idea. The surgeons, when they pulled it out, said it had been moving around for a while. The point is that you got to make sure that if they're going to look and give you a rehabilitation place, you really have to know where to go.
Definitely. We're talking with William Reiley Butler, we call him Bill, and he is the author of this #1 Amazon bestseller, Navigate the Medical Maze, and it's so important. And to have an advocate with you, be it your husband, your wife, or whoever, and go to the hospital representatives, patient reps, advocates there. It's like I learned very early, reach out, keep reaching out, keep making contacts, get heard. Because most patients don't do that. That's where you excel in this book.
It tells how to do that. Now, the latter part of the book is pain communication and incapacity scales. It informs you how to communicate with the doctors so that you can tell them, well, when I do this, it's at level 2. When I do this, it's up to level 6.
But don't do this, right?
And I have that in the book. Well, doctor, it hurts when I do that. Well, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
But that gives you the doctors a range.
Yeah.
So, but there's one problem. Symptoms. Symptoms are pain or symptoms are incapability. Very quickly, I'll tell you that in Kim's situation, she was a teacher. She was almost falling to stand near everything. They couldn't find out what it was. So the last surgeon listened, or actually a resident, and sent her to get a CT scan. All the other doctors did not do that because it was a level of pain too.
Yeah.
I created an incapacity scale. So it's similar scale, but not using pain.
Right.
So if you can't walk and you can't do this and you discover, you'll know you're at either a level 2 or level 6 or level 7. If the medical field incorporates it, so that you won't run into what Kim ran into. So it's how you communicate. You have to learn how to communicate because that pain level is going to be, they're going to want to know it in a rehab facility. Yep. They're going to want to know it in the nursing home, especially physical therapy and occupational therapy, because you're not going to get out of that rehab without the physical therapy allowing you to do so, which goes into insurance. So I do speak about insurance.
Oh, yeah.
The do's and don'ts of insurance. That is in there too. The last part is infection.
Yeah.
I'll give you an idea. This is always fascinating to me. If you're orthopedic, this concentrates on only orthopedic implants. In 2019, there were 600,000 implants done. 375 of those were hip replacements. Out of that, according to Microbiology Open, which is a great research body, 56.1% of those individuals get either a staph or which is a bacterial infection. 56%. Now the hospitals are trying to reduce that number, and I explain why. But the point is that there are issues that you have to look for or talk with the surgeons. I'll give you an example, and this is interesting. There's a direct correlation between getting an infection and the number of people in the operating room.
Right.
So if I went to UMass, which is a resident area, right?
Teaching school, yeah.
So you have the surgeon, the anesthesiologist, the nurse, and then maybe another surgeon or a resident.
Sure.
4.
Yeah.
The movement of air within the operating room is critical. And this is CDC and other issues.
That could be why it's so cold in there.
Well, that's another issue.
I've been awake in one of those.
But it actually is good for you.
Yeah.
If they brought residents in, or anybody, and it went from 4 to 6, 7, or 8, the direct correlation probability of you getting an infection is greater.
Yep.
Question would be, doctor, how many people are going to be in the operating room? Now you have the information of saying this. Well, do you mind if we have residents come in? You say, yes, because you don't want the people working. So you learn these little tidbits of how to avoid infections, even going into COVID-19.
Right.
the stats are getting better, but within the book, the idea, I don't want to sound a little corny here, but if you do work with the book, whether it's advocates and then you don't read the rest or need the rest, or whether it's infections you don't need the rest, or whether you know now how to compare certain nursing homes, rehabs, and surgeons and hospitals, then now you're armed with all the questions and answers that you're going to need. And not to sound corny, but I've seen so many people in pain. I've seen my roommates pass. And I've experienced this. These people in the book give their hearts to the book. They give their experiences. I changed their names, of course.
Yeah, sure.
But they open their heart. Now, home care, for example, is
like the VA, visiting nurse?
a visiting nurse. But home care, some of the surgeons or hospitals want you to do home care.
Sure.
There's a section on home care,
Yeah.
and there's an individual named Carmen S. who took care of her husband, Mark S.
Mm-hmm.
It goes through what really you're going to have to do, say, if it's kidney failure. It either could be really good, or they could put monitors in there that beep all night and you never get any sleep.
Yeah.
It's human burnout.
Yeah, definitely.
So the home care is in there. So we go from infections, communication, infections, and then to home care, and the end of the book. But again, I'll just go back to it. These people allowed me to interview them in acute facilities, which is for hearts and so on, and then subacute facilities. And other people, like I mentioned in the book,
Yeah.
also chimed in on it. There's nothing like it. There's a very good chance that if you read it seriously, and just use it as a reference source at one particular point, it could save your life.
You know
or
what? A
friends.
good place for this, Bill, would be over at the UMass Medical School. There's a store there, and you can buy real medical books that the doctors study, but also patients like ourselves can go in. This would be excellent. Of course, they're a teaching hospital. They've got in the medical school building, they've got the library.
I will take that advice.
Definitely go over there and get that done. Bill, before we close, gosh, I wish we had more time. We've been talking with Bill Butler, William Reiley Butler, and he is the author of Navigate the Medical Maze. Think about it so that you can get the best care for yourself. There's going to be a copy of this downstairs, of course, in the Upton devoted local authors section. And one more time, Bill, how can they get a hold of your book?
You get it through Amazon. It's Amazon's #1 bestseller. So you can either use the name Navigate the Medical Maze, or you can do search by William Reiley. It's Reiley, a little bit different. So it's William Reiley Butler, and it will pop up. You can buy it for online, so you can read it online, or you can buy the hard copy.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. Now, if you want to get a discount of some sort, get to my website, william-butler.com,
Yeah.
and I will sell it to you for a little bit less, at which point, and I'll ship it to you. So there's two ways of doing it. And the website gives a lot of information on
It
where
does.
to go.
Yeah,
what to do.
definitely. So, are you working on, before we close, are you working on another one? Another book?
Yes.
Oh, quickly, tell us, give us a hint.
Well,
Is it medical?
from the first book and the second book, there's William Butler.
Yeah.
I'm the author. I'm redoing the first book, by the way.
Oh, you are?
Republishing
Okay.
it. It's going to be a heck of a lot better.
All right. That was
And-
good, yeah.
William Butler's done this and William Butler's done that. Now, how did he get out of it, and what part of his life, how did the rest of his life come out? So it's kind of like branding. So that's going to be the next book.
Aha. So
I mean, you have to learn how to walk again.
He's going to tell us exactly what happened with it when you had all your surgeries and you had to learn how to walk, all that type of
I
thing.
learned how to dance again. What lady friend is going to want a guy who's got scars all over because of the operations, can't walk, and is crippled? Well, William Butler comes out with that. So we'll come out with that. Then there's another one after that's called The Last Hitchhiker. Which,
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to have him, you better believe we'll have him back on again. Thanks for being with us, Bill. Don't forget to grab a copy of his book. This is great. If you're going in for surgery, you're going in for any reason, read it. I'm a firm believer, too, in having someone with you to take notes. If they can't, well, you take notes. As soon as you get in your car, whatever, after your appointment.
Ask for reports every meeting.
Get your report.
Get every MRI that's taken, whatever it's on facility
Yep.
or outside, you get every report so that you can read it and document it. If something does go wrong, you want that report.
Oh, definitely. Bill, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
See you next time on Be My Guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.